Today we are back with a brand new video from the field of building and system technology, namely with our innovative and cutting-edge new MobileTrain. MobileTrain is a series of different training systems, and today our EV e-mobility Wallbox trainer is in focus. He has the ability to either stand or lie down, depending on your personal preferences and how you would like to carry out the tasks at hand. For video, we'll now lay down the device. On my side is our product expert, Lutz. Lutz, nice to have you here and support us.
Hello, Chris. Nice to shoot a video with you again.
I am in total agreement. Lutz, this is the device that you have recently developed and created. Before we delve into detail, as I mentioned, wallboxes are widely discussed, whether in Europe, North America, or elsewhere. In the context of electromobility, nearly everyone needs a wallbox, especially at home for charging electric vehicles. But please briefly explain why this topic is so important, especially for training in the field of building systems technology.
Yes, you just have to look at the news. You just have to look at where the energy transition is going, where the topic of smart home, smart building is going, the topic of electric vehicles, the number of electric vehicles is changing. Certainly, you also require the suitable charging infrastructure for that purpose. And with regards to the charging infrastructure, it is experiencing rapid growth, and there exist highly specific technical prerequisites. And presently, technicians must, of course, possess the capability to install and link the devices once, and also conduct regular inspections on them, because in Germany, individuals without professional training work on these devices or will subsequently loan their vehicles.
Correct.
Nothing should occur to them. They must handle it safely.
So the system must be completely secure. And can we implement all these points you just mentioned with this compact system? Yes.
That signifies we have the ability to learn the fundamentals from it, and we also have the opportunity to learn how to operate it. We can learn the safety regulations for that, so everything that must be observed.
We will provide more information on that later. However, prior to that, what do we actually observe here on the system? So what I, as a non-expert, recognize, we have our wallbox here. And on the left side, what do we have over there?
Yes, you as a layperson have described it almost well. On the one hand, we have our charging infrastructure set up and ready to use. The charging infrastructure in this case consists of a wallbox. Of course, you can also use a large charging station or similar things. Right away with the ready-made connection cable. So the cable for charging is also a part of the infrastructure for charging. I will put it aside here.
In the case of the Type 1 plug for North America, but of course any other plug or wallbox can also be installed.
Exactly. That means here you have to comply with the country-specific standards accordingly. So here we also adhere to the standards of SAE J1772, which simply prescribe the charging levels, connection requirements, and similar things.
So it would be perfect for the USA, that is, for the North American market.
Exactly. We have a model here that is specifically made for the North American market. You can already see this from the colors of the cables, from the sockets used. And I have already said, even the charging levels, that means you can see that here just by the size alone. Socket. That means we maintain level 2 here. Level 2 is the most common in the United States, which is accordingly found in the home sector of the country of America. The individual levels, level 1, 2, 3, used there are also in the SAE J1772 given and described. There are set, and these standards are followed throughout the USA.
Wonderful.
Cease. At this very moment, we explicitly stated, all right, you inquired about the contents of this particular location. On one side is the charging infrastructure, and on the other side is essentially the installation of equipment further up the supply chain. That implies ultimately it can have a distinct look in each and every building, and in this case, the user must familiarize themselves with the previous installation before operating such a charging station or wallbox device.
Okay, I understand. That is. But here we really have a real wallbox from the market, from the respective markets now, where the system is supposed to be used. That is. This is not something self-built, but I could also buy it myself and use it at home. So a completely practical and real application.
Precisely. The user must also acquire knowledge of when he has finished his work. as he is doing it for a customer at the end of the process of completing his task. Then he also has to instruct the end customer. He has to hand it over to the end customer. And that's why the reason for us was also to use a real part from practice here, as it is really installed everywhere.
How would you react or answer the question now if someone says, okay, now there is, for example, a version of Autel in here, but what if the customer now has to deal with other brands, or also says, I not only have Autel now, but also have to use other brand names? How does that fit together with the device used for training?
This is relatively straightforward. This wall box in this particular case is securely screwed onto a mounting plate. And it is interchangeable. That means I can remove this wall box from the mounting plate and install a different brand, because the connection conditions are standardized in principle, allowing for easy substitution. So implementing the connection here is just the same. So we have our installation page, and we have the respective wall box that we can exchange as desired.
The device is then really flexible in a double sense because we can take it with us everywhere. That's hard with a regular wall box, unless you want to take the entire house. But we also have the flexibility to continue inside because we can install and use any standardized wall box for training here, so to speak. This is a cool thing. What else do we see? I see an Ethernet connection here. What function does it have? What's it good for?
The wall box offers various communication options. To be more specific, I can establish communication with the mobile phone by utilizing Bluetooth technology. I possess the ability to communicate via Wi-Fi technology.
Can she do that too?
She is also capable of doing that. Alternatively, I am able to tightly integrate them into the store. It always depends on what else you have planned. Do I have the wall box and want to use it autonomously only for charging? Or do I want to connect my wall box to a photovoltaic system so that I can also utilize solar energy, the storage, etc., can make use of? Then it is dependent on how I can establish communication with the other devices that are involved in the process. In a house, it is usually done via WLAN. If you want to integrate it into a larger facility or even a charging park, the whole thing is usually connected via Ethernet.
Then it would become critical with WLAN at some point with multiple charging stations or wall boxes. The whole thing also sounds suspiciously like the topic of smart building. Does that also go in this direction? Especially when you mention that the wall box, which is injured, can now be intelligently connected and also functions in conjunction with other components of the house, for instance.
This is why we opted for this wall box, which provides multiple communication options to cater to our needs. You can see that at the market there are these wall boxes in different price ranges, and accordingly they also have partially limited communication options. Here we have selected the communication options in a manner that allows us to integrate the system with additional systems as well.
If I recollect correctly at this moment, or if you step outside and visually inspect these wall boxes, you must have the ability to identify or authenticate yourself on these devices in order to gain access. How does this work in this system, for example? So do we have a practical way to do this with an RFID card, or how would we proceed to practice or train this authentication process here in this particular context?
So there are a couple of points that need to be considered. One of them is the initial commissioning process. The initial commissioning takes place when it is first switched on, where the identification is initially carried out via a Bluetooth interface, namely with a mobile app that can be downloaded either onto a mobile phone or onto a tablet.
So you're also flexible in terms of the device. Exactly.
That means on the device, there is the application for it, and then you connect accordingly via Bluetooth. You will be provided with an identification code. Afterward, you can proceed to establish the initial connection to the box for the first time. And at that point, I can make a decision on how I want to handle my authentication process in the future, regardless of whether I initiate the charging process from my mobile phone or if I do it using RFID cards and similar methods. There are then various settings in the app so that you can say, basically, as soon as I plug in a plug, it will start charging immediately. But that would mean that anyone can hang on to it. Or, as I mentioned, I utilize my mobile phone, then I have to identify myself on my mobile phone initially, and then I can authenticate, and then I can log in there. or via RFID cards. Anything is possible.
So here we are again, very flexible. Depending on the relationship with the neighbors, you can then decide whether you want to use an RFID card or simply release the charging. Did I understand correctly now? Now, of course, the question is, everything is new, everything is perfect, beautiful, but the trainees, or later the technician, also face the challenges that errors may potentially exist in the system. I now also see that we have different measuring devices on the side here. How do we handle error diagnosis in this system?
To start, we must delve a bit further into the topic at hand in order to gain a more comprehensive understanding. That means, before I install something like that, I have to take a look at what my previous installation looks like. In case of emergency, if it is already an older system or depending on where it is installed, I have to do measurements or tests again. That means, for instance, such test devices are utilized for this purpose.
We'll keep it succinct on camera.
In this particular case, for instance, a test device used for testing the entire installation systems. That signifies here the protective ladder test is carried out, here the insulation resistance measurement is carried out, etc. That is, the RCD test, the triggering of the overcurrent protection or residual current protection devices, for example, is being checked. As long as the installation is fine, everything is wonderful. But how do I recognize an error? For this purpose, our system also has an error simulation. That means we have the opportunity here to activate a total of 6 different errors so that we can thoroughly investigate the system here, either once in the normal state or once in the faulty state of operation. Apprentices learn most effectively through comparison. That means they compare the test values, i.e. the measured values, once in the normal state and then observe how a fault affects them. And this comparison is extremely important to retain and subsequently derive conclusions in practical application.
Currently, we are accustomed to, in our company or our customers, are accustomed to the fact that the trainees are digitally accompanied in their learning process. Now, with this new generation of training systems, the MobileTrain, but do we also have an e-learning course for this, or how is it designed here?
We also have an e-learning course available for this. In this course, I would say that all important concepts and theories are thoroughly covered, along with practical measurement exercises. This allows the learner, who is participating in the tournament, to work independently for an extended period of time and acquire the topic comprehensively. Additionally, the learner will be tested on their understanding through examination questions and tests, ensuring they have truly grasped the material presented. All right, therefore he must respond to inquiries, complete assessments, and subsequently the educator or instructor can directly observe whether he comprehended it or not. Extremely pleasant.
At present, there is an additional device here. I will swiftly grab that device without any delay. What is it that we have in this situation, Lutz?
I'll hold it up to the camera so you can see it out there on the screen. That means there's also a charging plug here now.
I can obviously plug it into the charging box or the wall box, but then I'll give it to you because I don't know what to do with it.
This is the car battery. If you plug it in, you can drive the car.
That is absolutely fantastic. And at this very moment, are you truly serious?
This is a test adapter. And by the way, I will temporarily set it aside for a brief moment of time. What do we possess? If we have confirmed that our system is operating correctly, then we are able to connect our wall box and proceed with the next steps. And such a wall box. In the end, it only functions when there is established communication with the vehicle. Without this communication, it is unable to operate and provide its intended functionality. Now we need to consider the implications of this and how it will impact our training program that is currently in progress. If I desire this charging station to charge at this moment, I must bring an electric vehicle at this moment and connect it at this location, because else I won't get the device to work.
Affirmative.
So, of course, you can't expect that now. That means we cannot demand in the training that we now place an electric vehicle next to it, then we have a few $1,000s or euros standing there.
Space requirement?
The space requirement is also huge, but also in practice outside. That means when the respective electrician is supposed to test such things, he cannot take an electric car with him every time. Furthermore, where do I want to test something here? I lack connections. No line of communication in this area. I could test here at the charging plug at the maximum. But what did we just say? It is not possible because there is currently no communication established with the vehicle at this time.
He must recognize a vehicle before he becomes active.
If I plug it into a vehicle, I no longer have any measuring points. The plug is secure and locked. Consequently, I no longer possess a vehicle. That is the reason why we require an adapter, and this is the present device that you have here, which essentially simulates my vehicle, which then has a variety of settings and options available here for customization and adjustment purposes. So these are precisely the modes that can also be located in an electric vehicle. So first of all, that means positions A, B, and C. First of all means that no vehicle is connected. B would indicate that a vehicle is connected, i.e., he now recognizes the presence of a charging cable.
Exactly, the blue light.
And C would indicate that I am able to charge. However, he is currently unable to do so at this time. Initially, I must release the charging station in order to proceed with the task at hand.
Ah, okay, he says that now.
That is, I'm playing car now, right?
Yes, swipe the card, scan the QR code.
Therefore, he has currently established a connection through Bluetooth. Consequently, I am now able to commence my shop.
We listen to the clicking sound.
And now we see, or would see now, if the car was truly up next, we would see with what power, with what charging current, the vehicle is being charged here.
We witness tension, then ultimately also experience the energy.
Certainly, I can do the same on my phone, or in this instance on my tablet device. But the user would also see it on his mobile phone, with the charging data, so everything that he would practically pull there now.
All right, it's great, thank you.
Now we can also see on the adapter, yes, which we have connected. Now this red light down here is lit. The voltage has been switched on, and now I can use my testing device if you pass it to me for a moment.
Of course.
So at this moment, I also have the opportunity to connect my test probes to these free pins here, because my charging plug is currently occupied and cannot be used.
This is now like a knife extension.
Exactly, this is currently the measuring adapter, where I am now able to measure my voltage or insulation resistance or protective ground resistance and so on, accordingly.
Similar to the way we do it in real life.
Just as we... Exactly. So these are not measuring devices that were developed for us, but they are also utilized in the field in reality.
Exactly.
These are measuring devices sold commercially. They can be obtained from various manufacturers. We have selected one, but there are others. And this is the measuring or testing equipment that the practitioner additionally carries with him during his practice sessions.
Okay. Wonderful. That means if I can summarize this again for myself, we now have a training system here that is completely mobile. We're not tied to any location, but with this suitcase solution, we can take it anywhere. And it's easily portable, as I lifted it up earlier. In case of doubt, we have also installed rolls. That means you can also wonderfully drive the device around. But we are also highly flexible within the device because the used wall box is interchangeable. And then, of course, we have set up the entire pre-installation here and can go into the topics of smart building, so to speak, through communication, as well as into the topic of error diagnosis, because we have deliberately integrated specific errors here that we can easily connect to the system with a switch click. And through the use of real measuring devices, we measure and diagnose as well as later on a real vehicle or a real house installation and a real wall box. Now I just have one question left about security. That means we are in the high voltage range. I know from automotive engineering, the currents are high, the voltages are high. And of course, we still have all these installation issues, and then we also activate additional errors. And if individuals are presently working on this system who are in training, what about the matter of security?
Well, I would like to mention that we are a manufacturer of educational materials with more than 40 years of experience in the market, and the topic is not completely new to us. That means we have been dealing with this topic for a really long time and can confidently state that our teaching systems, which we utilize, are always safe, of course, in connection with the corresponding documentation, because the purposes of use are explicitly stated there, of course, without any ambiguity. That means we ensure, for example, that no metallic parts protrude outward, or that if something is truly defective internally, There can be no damage to the outside, thus guaranteeing that the user is always protected there for sure, and providing them with utmost safety and security at all times. We ensure that, for instance, nothing can initiate combustion even in the eventuality of a potential error or mistake taking place. This signifies that materials are employed that are hard to combust, resistant to fire, and also non-dripping, ensuring enhanced safety and protection. So, all conditions and safety regulations that are necessary when handling or working in the lab area, we naturally comply with in all locations and ensure strict adherence to them.
All measurement points are protected by the 4mm safety measurement points.
We have 4mm safety sockets. We also utilize the test devices. Even the manufacturers of testing equipment are currently at a stage where, for instance, the corresponding safety measures. Yes, they have the examination protection included until Cut 4.
Okay.
In order to carry out our work in this location, as we typically do in practice, it is essential that we have access to the existing voltage and are not reliant on any simulations or artificial means of testing. Because in this particular area, namely the craft sector, we heavily rely on practical components and hands-on training programs for our work. And we do not want to pretend any kind of security with simulations that may not exist in practice, as they lack real-world validity.
If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and you will discover more details about this training system, as well as the other mobile training systems on our website. At this moment, all I can do is wish you a lot of fun in your training in the field of building systems technology and hope to see you soon.